Hi, I'm Chris from Tom's Outdoors, and today I wanted to have a bit of a chat about sleeping bags for the winter. I've got a couple of them just here, and I'm going to go through a few of the features that I like on these bags and really what to look for in a sleeping bag that you're going to be using in very frosty or snowy conditions. We want to talk about down. Down is amazing stuff. It's structured with little spines and fluffiness that comes off it, right? It is going to trap air, and it is the air that acts as an insulator that keeps you warm. So you don't want air circulating around, you want it to be static for it to be able to provide an insulation value. That's what down does, down traps that. Now, first I want to talk about something that's really quite confusing, is we have the fill power and we have the amount of grams of down that are in a sleeping bag. Now, the two are two different measurements. So we'll deal with fill power first. Fill power has to do with the loft and how lofted the down is. Think of it as the fluffiness. So if we've got a 400 loft, it'll be, say, that fluffy, 600, 800, etc. You have to combine that with the amount of grams of down that are actually in the bag. So you could have 1,000 fill power, but if you've only got 100 grams of it, it's not going to be really warm. So typically, looking at four season bags, looking at winter bags, you're going to have a high fill power and you're going to have a high amount of that down. So you're going to have multiple grams. Now, the second part we really want to consider when buying a winter sleeping bag, after we've considered what the loft is the amount of it that's actually in the bag. All right, so in a lightweight sleeping bag, you're going to be worried about how heavy the bag is overall. Once we flip into a winter bag, we're still worried about how much it weighs, but the amount of down is also important because that's going to give us our total warmth, right? Cumulative warmth. Okay, so you're going to be looking at different levels depending on where you are, but it is worth considering both the loft factor and how much of it is that is there when comparing one bag versus another. Rightio, so pack size and weight for winter sleeping bags, you're going to be a little bit bulkier than what you are for a summer lightweight hiking bag. You're also going to be over that kilo mark. The reason you're going to be over that kilo mark is you're going to need somewhere in the vicinity of 700 grams of high quality down. Once you're over 700 grams of down, that doesn't leave a lot of weight for the material to actually hold the sleeping bag together. There's always been a bit of confusion around temperature ratings. Now, the EN standard, which a lot of bag manufacturers are testing to nowadays, has 3 temperatures as part of the standard. One is the comfort rating, the second one is the limit of comfort, and the third is the extreme. Now, it's worth considering the wording that's used for each one of those. Comfort is comfortable. You should be comfortable down to that temperature in a perfect situation. Limit of comfort does mean limit, right? You are going to feel cold. It's not you're going to be warm to that temperature, you are going to be cold at that temperature. Also, one thing to remember is the standard is done wearing thermal, so really important. Now, when we're out camping, hiking, backcountry skiing, chances are we're a little bit dehydrated, we mightn't be fed quite as well, we're sleeping in a tent on an insulated mat that may or may not be up to spec, and we're a little bit tired. So it's going to mean that if you've got a bag that's got a limit of comfort of -10, that you might even start feeling cold once you're just into the negatives, because all of those factors start to affect that limit and comfort rating. Lastly, there is the extreme rating, and pretty much that is 6 hours and you are hypothermic. So we can pretty much forget about the extreme rating when buying a sleeping bag. That's a worst case scenario, and it's normally really low temperatures. Got a couple of sleeping bags here. We've got the Cedar Summit Ascent 3 just here, and I've got a Rab Neutrino Pro 900. Now, they're both winter bags. The Rab one rates a little bit warmer than what the Cedar Summit one is. And what I want to do is just go through some of the features that, if you're looking at buying a winter bag, that you're going to want to consider. Rightio, so the hood area is one of the most important things to look at when buying a winter sleeping bag. Now, it's really important to remember, we talked previously about the temperature ratings and the best case scenario. Now, it's really important to remember that those temperature ratings are also done with the hood fully enclosed around the head. So you're not losing any heat around the head. Now, a lot of people don't sleep like that. So if you like to sleep with a pillow on top of the hood and just the draft collar cinched around you, you're never going to achieve that temperature rating that that bag states that it's capable of. So we want a nice, comfortable hood that encloses the head and still got a bit of room in it. So we've got the Rab one here. You can see from the shape and the profile here, it's also got a draw cord that pulls it around the head. So that's going to pull it tight around the face should you be in a really cold conditions. Next thing you really want to look at is a draft collar. Now, draft collar is vital because that's what's going to stop the warm air around your body escaping back out on the outside. Now, if you've got a 20-degree temperature difference between the outside and the inside, this has to do a job, and it's got a really important job to do. So with this Rab one, we've actually got a draft collar that's shaped so it comes up over the collarbones and it sits really quite nicely. It's nice and soft. There's actually a draw cord in it that runs through the middle. And that means that it can be tightened up around you to minimise those drafts, but it's not going to feel like you've got a cord around your neck. So another important area to have a look at is the zip. What you want down the side is you want a baffle that sits loose and pretty much stops any of that draft coming in from the zip. The zip is a potential point where you're going to lose heat. So zips are really important. And you'll find in some of those really specific winter bags is that they don't go all the way around the foot box because that, again, those zips is somewhere that you're going to lose heat. You're going to take a little bit of a look at the Cedar Summit. This is the Ascent 3. We've got a really similar layout as far as draft collars and things goes. But with the Cedar Summit, you don't have that neck baffle that really sits around the collarbones. What Cedar Summit have done is they've just made it around the top of the bag, okay? It means that you're not going to feel too claustrophobic around your neck, but if it's really cold, you may not achieve as much warmth as what you might do in, say, the Rab bag. The back of the Cedar Summit has a really large draft collar there, and the hood is really nicely padded as well. And it's a little bit larger than the Rab as far as space goes. The Cedar Summit's a little bit unusual in that it's got zippers on both sides, so this gives you more venting options if you're trying to use your bag in warmer conditions, but it may not be quite as warm if it's really cold. Shape of your sleeping bag is also important. When you're looking at a winter bag, you're going to find that the majority of them are mummy shaped. That's for a really good reason. What you want to do is you want to minimise the amount of extra airspace in your bag. That's going to keep you warmer. Now, it is going to mean that some people that like to move around in their sleeping bag a lot are going to find it constricting. It's going to be a really hard balance to get a bag that's not constricting and warm. When all boils down to it, in the end, what you need to consider is how warm you need your bag to be. Take a look at where you're going, what you're going to be doing over the winter, and have a look at what you think your low temperatures are going to be. Now, even if you're just camping in inland Australia and you get a good frost, it is possible to have a -5, -6 morning and you're not in the snow. You then need to consider what the manufacturer's recommended temperatures are. Now, you have to consider that they are an absolute best case laboratory conditions. So you need to buy a bag that is warmer than you think you'll need. You can always open it up and vent it, but if it's not warm enough, you're going to be cold.